Hello friends and fellow world builders, my name is AJ Winters and welcome back to World Builder. Today we're talking travel. We have a river city, a mining city and a farming city, but how do they travel between each other and in their respective landscapes? We're going to dive into all the things from fishing vessels to transportation to hobby recreational tech. So I'm not going to waste any more time with an introduction. Let's start with the river city. We know we have some sort of passage boats that go between the canals in the river city. We also have some fishing vessels for their main source of trade. When it comes to the passage boats, I did picture the gondola style from Venice. But if we're going to lock in the moon goddess or some sort of relation to the moon, maybe we can play around with a sort of crescent moon design for the gondolas too. But let's start off with that, shall we? Get my sketchbook out. Whee! I like the idea that the fundamental shape of these boats is a homage to the moon goddess or something. So I'm picturing a crescent moon shaped boat with lanterns or moon rocks hanging off the ends. I don't know where we're going with the magic yet, but some sort of light source that hangs off the end of these crafts. So I designed little lanterns, a crescent moon shaped with a stabilizing fin, and a gorgeous fin-shaped oar to paddle through the river city. Then you've got all the luxury details like the cushions on the inside and the dangling ropes on the outside with the gold coins. It's just such a stylish design. I really like this concept, especially for the citizens of the river city. But I'm also thinking this might not be very practical for tradesmen. So maybe we need some sort of cargo gondola? Yeah, these might be a little bit more self-moving and maybe even have the ability to be stationary. I'm picturing a marketplace with 50 of these boats all stationary and stable as they trade produce and fish back and forth. It's chaos, but like an organized chaos. Okay, so I played around with this design to have enough storage for the produce, plus a canopy over top for shade. You've got your bucket at the front, your rope to attach to the dockyards, and your netting at the back of the boat for more storage or for connection to other boats. Plus, my Discord chat and I have been talking about this stabilizing fin and how water might course around it to keep the boat stable or move it back and forth. I think there's some sort of magical tech in this land. Not necessarily steampunk, but definitely more modernized, but using magic instead of diesel or coal or something. So I'm gonna look into that further when we get into our magic systems. But I think these gondolas have the ability to move by themselves somehow. Okay, so we've got our gondolas and we've got our cargo gondolas, and both of those need names, but now we've got a fishing vessel to design. And I like the idea of dabbling into our Viking and Nordic tendencies, because that's kind of where my Discord chat has been leaning in terms of naming things. So let's take a look at some Nordic ships and fishing vessels and see if we can play around with that design. The Viking ship was perhaps the greatest technical and artistic achievement of the European Dark Ages. Not only because it was fast, but it could also navigate in shallow water. And after doing a deep dive into the two different types of ships, I'm leaning more towards the warships. With 5.5 meter long blade-like oars and a giant sail for speed, you can see why I was intrigued. I then crossed that with a Polynesian-style fishing vessel like the boats from Moana. With two vessels either side or an outer rig afloat for balance, I thought it could be really good for fishing. So I present to you my dual boat fishing vessel with an identical stabilizing fin to the previous designs, as well as an arching arm between the two vessels for hanging fishing nets. With the sleek oars and the sails similar to the Viking ship, it's perfect for any type of weather and fast or slow travel. Maybe we'll play around with that a little bit further because there's obviously going to be different types of fishing vessels, but this one should be our main one. Now, something that I've been thinking about is we need a way for the Tri-Cities to travel between each other. But I don't necessarily want to play around with air travel yet, especially with things like airships. We do have some islands in this nation, so it kind of cancels out having actual ships, and I still want to play around with that concept. But just because we're not doing airships doesn't mean we can't play around with air travel in some sort of way. So I'm thinking maybe with the mining city that they have some gliders or some fun tech to travel between the mountains in their city. Kind of like that chapter in Avatar where the Earthbenders have some technology that are utilizing the elements. Oh! I think that we have a lot of that going on in this world. There's the gondolas that are somehow using water or air to control themselves, but there's also some sort of airplay with the mining city. Maybe they have some gliders or helium balloons that lift them up. Ooh, a helium elevator. Ooh, now we're playing with fire. I like the idea of having a balloon system to lift up citizens from ground levels to higher up in the mountains. Yeah. Okay. Yes, let's delve into that a little bit more when we get to our mining city, but I really like that concept. Balloon travel. Again though, I don't want to have balloon or air travel long distances. Maybe there's a limitation in that and they're still experimenting with it, but we're not quite there in terms of technology level. So I think we're somewhere between modernizing ourselves and old school travel methods. Speaking of, let's take a little detour to our farming city and work out what their main transportation is. Because we know that we have our Vrokin, which is what our Discord chat has officially named our feline species. I love the name so much. It took a little bit of fandangling, but we got there. And we've also worked out that depending on which region you're in, north or south, you either pronounce it Vrokin or Vraukin, which is definitely a point of contention between the two sides of the nation. Tomato, tomato. But getting back to the farming city, I think that they have some different vehicles that we can play around with. Not only would they have something for farming, something that can graze the crops and collect produce, but I think we could also play around with some recreational vehicles, like hovercrafts. Yeah. That was a very loud bird. I want to play around with some sort of hover vehicle. Maybe a motorbike or a wheel mechanism, something or other. And I found these steampunk tricycles or one-wheeled motorbikes. And that just sparked this level of creativity to have a bunch of these newish designs, something modern that the teens are using in the farming city. Something that offers the kids a level of forestry or farmland exploration, but doesn't ruin crops. So it's a single lane kind of vehicle. I think that would be something that they would design in the farming city. They are by far the biggest city of the Trilands, and that is just going to offer us a whole realm of things to play with when we get to the farming city.
Introducing ziggurat wheels, or zigs for short.
I think that having sort of magical elements of air rushing around the vehicle in a slimline format would allow it to propel forward. I really like where that's going. But it's also sparking so many more ideas for me, and I really want to dive into the mining city and the farming city now. So I think maybe I'm going to take a little bit of a detour with my video plan and do an episode on the farming city next week. We need to work out what these crops are, man. And also work out what the farming city is like, because I think that culture is going to influence everything else that we do moving forward. Thinking about those sort of balloon travel aspects of the mining city is giving me such a vivid vision of what the mining city could be like. Tucked into the mountainsides, having these long corridors. I think there's definitely a learned aspect to the city. So I think we really need to polish up what those two cities are like, because I don't think we can dive into anything else before we work out what they are as well. I'm really happy with these forms of transportation, but I think we should dive into them a little bit further. So if you're interested in joining those discussions, head on over to our Discord or follow all the socials to keep up with these creations, because I'm going to get into them a little bit more. Big shout out to the people that have already contributed to this world. Thank you so much. And much love to my patrons for voting on the name Vrorkin. I think it is perfect for our feline species. Next week, we're gonna dive into the farming city, so hit subscribe to be notified when the video comes out. Until then, I'll see you next week.